Hi, I'm Anna.
I'm Ben.
AutoSave, welcome to our
So
channel.
we're watching the Apothecary Diaries, Season 2, Episode 24, the season finale of Season 2. Bittersweet Day. It's been a great season. It's been a great last few episodes. This last arc's been great. Lao Lin's been great. I'm hopeful that somewhere she's still alive, but I don't expect to ever see her again. I just don't really know when to expect another season of the Apothecary Diaries yet.
I also feel like this is a bittersweet moment. I feel like I'm kind of leaning on the bitter part of it right now, just because I'm like, oh no, I don't want there to be only one more episode to watch right now. And maybe once I've watched this, I will feel even more on the sweet side of bittersweet, hopefully, until I maybe realize how long it might be before I get a season 3.
I doubt it for your sake. This tends to be one of your favorite shows that we get to watch, and I imagine that you are going to be pretty grumpy until we get to watch season 3.
I feel like I might cry about this. I don't know if it will be here while watching this finale episode or if it will be 3 days from now, next week, when I realize I don't watch another weekly episode of Apothecary Diaries.
Yeah.
There will be tears shed.
Yep. You ready?
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay, I'm already about to cry.
How will Mao Mao's life change going back to the Rear Palace after this?
Good question.
The beginning. Did you see the mark on Mao Mao's neck?
Mm-hmm. That's what he was reaching for.
大したことない。かすり傷だ。見せてください。失礼します。雑な縫い方。すぐにでも縫い直したいけど、疲れて手が。
Oh, hands are shaky.
俺だけ安全な場所で見物ともいかんだろう。それでよろしいじゃないですか。そういう立場。
That is your role.
人士様が怪我をすると周りが迷惑するんです。そうだな。怪我をするつもりはなかったんだが。誰だってそうでしょう。
The fact that she does it for him. She wishes she could do the stitches.
I granted a strange wish.
お前はローランと仲が良かったのか。よくわかりません。友人。少なくとも私にとってはそれに近い関係だったと思う。ローラン、シスイとシャオラン、3人でつるんで話すのは悪くなかった。シスイがどう思っていたかはわからないけど。
Not understanding other people.
よくわからない人だったので。俺にもな。わからないままで終わってしまった。そうですか。そうか。シスイは。私にできるのは、シスイに託されたことを全うする。ひどい顔ですよ。お休みになられては。ああ、すごく眠い。ここで眠らないでください。なぜだ、疲れた。なぜと言われても、ここは忌むべき場所です。それはわかる。だったら。なら、なんでお前はここにいる？私とて子供くらい哀れみます。そうか。お前は薬の死に言われて死体には触れられないのではなかったか。どう言い訳したもんか。この傷はどうした？ろくでもない人がいまして、女性です。こいつ、他人の低層にいちいち干渉してくるのは何なんだ。傷は残らないだろうな。これくらいすぐ引きます。
We should be worried about you.
傷は残すな。その言葉、そのままお返ししてもよろしいでしょうか。俺は男だ。問題ない。人士様はそれを凌駕しております。そんなもの知るか。では私も知りません。傷一つで
Still holding her hand.
それまでのことです。なあ、俺は傷一つで価値がなくなるような男か。顔だけのハリボテか。 むしろもう少し傷があってもいいかもしれません。そのせいで周りは心を乱され、見た目ばかりに目をやってしまう。だけど人士様の本質は見た目ほど華美じゃない。もっと実直なものだ。それは多分見た目の美しさよりもずっと価値がある。
Scar him up to let the true beauty show.
前より男前になったではありませんか。ですから眠いのなら早くここで。
平常心でいけると思ったんだが、
はい。
案外というか思った以上にいけたようだ。
この状況。
Yeah, we're just nope, that's not what's happening.
お眠りになられた方がよろしいのでは。
まだ大丈夫だ。
では痛み止めを。
あと30分くらいなら我慢できる。
何が30分なのでしょうか。やつれた顔で何言ってんだこいつ。いかん。
なんだ今の音は。
The kids are waking up.
薬よ。死水は毒と言わず薬と言った。人を一度殺し、もう一度蘇らせる。蘇りの薬。
Wow, with the sun coming up.
It's like life returning.
生きているのか。
ジンシ様、お湯を用意してください。蘇った子供をジンシ様がどうするかはわからない。それでも私が連れてこられたのはこのためだ。
Lin thought about that.
一度死んだもの。
Oh my god.
Who died once ago. He's figuring it out.
狐につままれたようだ。
ジンシ様。
ああ、わかった。おい、オケに言うだ。それに毛布。
人手をよこしてください。できれば水霊。
Bring Suri.
頼む。
Oh my god.
And they're gonna do it. Oh my god.
How tired must Mao Mao be?
ありがとうございます。
続きはまたでいいか。
はいはい。
Oh my god.
水霊、子供たちが蘇ったぞ。
Oh my god. Okay.
Suri heard the agreement.
新年早々おめでたいわね。道具のお披露目があるんですって。らしいね。おばばもそろばん弾いて大喜びよ。
Abacus looking good.
お妃様も青マオが使えてた玉葉妃で決まったそうです。
Wow.
Wow.
出産も無事に済み、親父は花町に戻らず、
Wow.
戻ることになった。もともと理不尽な理由で高級を追放された親父だが、
The pleasure
医師
district
と
is
しての
gonna
腕
miss
は
out.
確かだ。人士様にはあれ以来会っていない。死の一族の処理と忙しいのだろう。
Let's see
Scar.
こ
Scar.
れはめでたいと同時に高級で用なしになったことを意味していた。花町の方が忙しいんだろうな。親父が作り置きしてたって。おい、そばかせ。おやつ。あんまり走り回るなよ。
Oh my god.
だったんだから。平気だっての。
Oh, you can see his arm.
5人とも蘇った。薬はまだ実験の段階だった。確実に効果が出てからと。最後に残った胸羽は記憶を失い、
He lost his
半
memory.
身にも軽く麻痺が残った。あんな状態から生き返ったのは運がいいと言える。
Some of the things he
子供た
forgot.
ちはみんな名前を変えて生かされ
Had their
る。
names changed and lived
どう
on.
いう理由か知らないが、子供たちは元上級妃のアードー様が4人とも引き受けてくれたらしい。
Wow.
で、水霊も。
Oh my god.
回した水霊だったが、不良の余地ありと判断されたようだ。監視付きだが命までは取られまい。 他のことは別に育てた方がよかろうと花町に来ることになったわけだが、ここが一番安全ってどういう理屈だよ。
What did you say about wanting him to be an apprentice? Oh, his name change.
新しい名前だ。響きを覚えてたから苦肉の策。
Ah.
じゃあ石油様。
久しぶり。
Why would Takuya be here?
薬屋とは聞いてたけど、
東宮のお披露目は済んだのですか？
ええ、無事にみんなマオマオによろしくって。あとこれ、渡しておかないと寝覚めが悪いから。
ほら、
いなくなって落ち込んでたんだから。
私も止水も表向きは引き抜かれて高級を出たことにな
Wow.
ったでしょうか。
明るい性格っていろいろ得よね。できるわけじゃないけど、放っておけないっていうか。元気で。
はい、石油様も。
It feels good that Sekiyu was the one that came to deliver it.
シ
Agreed.
ャオランがどう過ごしていたかを、湯殿で一人一生懸命に働くシャオランを放っておけなかったみたいだ。シャオランにはもうマオマオ元気にして。
Her writing.
年季が明けて高級を出ることになりました。かんざしをくれたお妃様に気に入ってもらえて、様の実家の妹の一緒に
Oh my
って紹介してもらえたの。
She's we helped.
頑張るつもり。本当はちゃんと話して伝えたかったな。いつかまたマオマオとシスイに会いたいな。みんなでアイス食べたいよ。
雪をいくらかき分けても見つからなかったそうだ。春になって雪が溶けたらもう一度探すと言っていた。見つからなければいい。
So that you can live with that hope that she survived.
およし。
何をする気だ。
人士様。
Good timing.
片付いたのですか？
It being her pinky finger too, like her mom.
こちらどうぞ。何なんだよ。綺麗になってる。親父が縫い直したのかな。
It looks like Luoman had a hand in it.
お疲れのようで。
死の一族の領地の処理や
Busy
い
guy.
ろいろな。
すでにほとんど処刑されたと聞いた。木材か。紙にしてくれると嬉しいけど。
おい、ないように扱うな。
すみません、つい癖で。
約束を果たしてもらおうか。
約束？
材料を揃えてやっただろう。
ああ、かんざし。
どうした？
いえ、あげちゃいました。
は？
たら見つかるかもしれません。
なんで春なんだ。
見つからないかもしれません。どこかの露店にでも並ぶかも。
売り払ったのか？
売り払ってません。ローランにあげました。いつか返してとは。
そういうことか。もう一つの方の約束を果たしてもらおうか。
最後まで聞けでしたっけ？
そういうことだ。
それではどうぞ。
考えると話すべきことはもう分かっているだろうから。
こりゃまあ立場のことなら今更だよな。代わりに別のでも。
別の。
結局ないのかよ。何をなさっているんですか？
意味がわかるか。
木には毒がある場合がありますよ。
お前に多少の毒は効かない。そうしたい気分にもなる。まずは砦の続きからだ。
やっぱり綺麗だな。
お前も毒を溜めているのか。
でかした。かいの。だろ？
邪魔が入る。
At least it wasn't a frog.
はい、ダチンの黒糖。じゃな。寝床一つ用意して、子はよく眠れるやつね。お疲れのようですし、ゆっくりお休みください。
休む。 枕はこれを使う。
人士様、たぬき寝入りですか、人士さん。しびれるな。
Doesn't look like he's pretending anymore.
はい、じゃあこちら私毎度り。
I'm about to see something.
あよ。
でセミ？
時代によく作られた玉製のだよ。
へえ。
おい、商品だ。冷やかしはやめてくれよ。
お金あんまりないの。
なら触らないでくれよ。
物々交換ならどう？はい、これ。
かんざしかい。なんだこりゃ、書かれる代物じゃねえぞ。
The bullet! Do you see?
You were right.
どこで？あ、いや、交渉成立だ。
綺麗。ねえおじさん。
I can't believe it.
私の名前たまもって言うんだよ。
玉の玉と海の藻で玉もかい？
Where does the inspiration come from?
海の向こうとか面白そうだよね。じゃあ、ありがとうね。バイバイ。
I wasn't ready for that. Okay, that was the Apothecary Diaries, season 2, episode 24. It was the last episode of the season. I'm stupid. I was like, yep, we'll never see Shisui or Lao Lin again, and it's just gonna be that blind hope that we don't find a corpse that will be that hopeful confirmation in our bodies that she's alive somewhere.
Mm-hmm. It's gonna stay ambiguous. Well, we'll never actually know for sure, and maybe that is something we can find comfort in. We have Mao Mao even feeling that there would be a sense of comfort, and there has been a sense of comfort for her that a body has yet to be found, and she hopes one is not found in the spring.
Yeah, we have her new name, Tamamo.
Tamamo. And it's
like the Gyoku for Jade. Oh, and the Mo as in seaweed. Oh my god, it's so good.
I don't think it's silly of us to not have thought that we would necessarily get confirmation. I obviously am happy to get confirmation that she's alive and well and seemingly in good spirits. I think, if anything, she could probably have even better spirits with that idea of like the people that she left behind and given messages to and given missions to. She has full faith in them that they would complete the missions that she gave them. All three people, I would say, that are the survivors of this situation are all holding up on their kind of end of the bargain with Laolin. And I think that she has confidence in them. To see her again now here at the end of the second season and how we leave her off, this idea that she might cross the sea, you know? She might go somewhere else.
I need an entire series of her becoming like a sailor or a pirate. And it would be phenomenal. It would be amazing.
Do you think that if she has a name change, if she goes somewhere else for a time period, years maybe pass, is there ever a world where she could travel back as a traveler? As just, oh, I'm just a normal traveler, no real home to my name, you know? And she could end up meeting with Mao Mao again somehow.
I get okay, my immediate response to that would be like, no way, that's coping. Like I wouldn't no, that's too risky. But no, that's not true at all. She has a deal with Jinshi. She could do it. And like, if everything goes the right way, it can definitely happen. Mm-hmm. I have a question for you.
Okay.
So we get the Jade cicada, right? Mm-hmm. That is that trade. And we get to see the hair stick, which you were right in that it blocked the bullet from the Feifa. Do you think that there was any motivation of this trade? Obviously, yes. We know Shisui loves bugs and the cicada, and that's enough. But do you think that there's any motivation within leaving that hair stick in hopes that one day it could circulate back to Mao Mao, and it would be nothing but obvious confirmation that she is still alive?
Simple answer, yes. I think that she's probably been window shopping for a little bit and waited for something that felt like a trade that would make her happy. Because if you think about what this item is for her, it's probably something that holds now a lot of sentimental value. it's almost like Mao Mao saved her life and gave her this second chance, ensured that she had a second chance, because that's the only reason that she's alive. And so to give up something like that, even if you do want to somewhere down the line send a message through someone selling it to someone else and then someone else buying it, someone else figuring out who originally owned this hair stick, sure, that could be a great goal that you have. But for the trade, you probably want to be getting something back in return that kind of feeds your interests and your style. And I think she was probably window shopping a little bit, and then she saw something that really spoke to her, a cicada, which honestly, if you think about a cicada, don't they die really quickly?
I think that the idea of getting a cicada too is just so nice to pay homage to the Shisui character within the Rear Palace and the connections she made between Mao Mao and Xiaolin.
That's true. That's true. Getting a cicada, getting a bug. It really fits her to do that. And the green, and she has these beautiful green eyes.
Yeah. We've recorded videos on the channel for a while, and I've cried a decent amount on the channel. And to a certain extent, I feel comfortable because we're in our house, like being like on camera and like showing my true emotions and like how I'm feeling. But I end up feeling so like awkward and shy, and like I'm not supposed to be in the room anytime that we have an encounter with Jinshi and Mao Mao. Like
I should not be seeing this.
No, truthfully, I'm like, oh my, I almost want to look away because I feel like I'm intruding.
Yeah, we're like Goshen on the other side of the door, just like kind of blushing, but like listening in at the same time.
Yeah. How do you feel? How do you manage during those moments?
I manage with pure adrenaline and excitement. I get through it somehow. I power through because I know at the end of the day, it's gonna be a reward.
Yeah.
You know, hopefully. And I feel like we do get rewarded even if it isn't in, when you normally watch, say, like a romance anime, the reward is, whoa, we finally see the characters hold hands, oh my god. And that's a huge reward. Like the kiss, you know, the actual confession of love, huge reward. But I feel like the rewards for Jinshi and Mao Mao take such a different shape than they do in other series and other plot lines. I feel like because of these two characters, the characters themselves are really taken in account when it comes to what are their milestones, what are their special moments, what between these two characters would be rewarding to the viewer because how the viewer has come to understand these two characters, their dynamic, their relationship. What is true to them that is a reward for the viewer?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like this episode especially gave us a plenitude of rewards in this dynamic, from before we leave the stronghold to once we've left the stronghold. I could think of probably 5 examples off the top of my head of rewards that I got as a viewer.
One of my favorite being before we left the stronghold was the conversation about the scar. If we could bring up a few lines.
Mm-hmm.
If a simple scar would nullify my value, so be it. Am I the kind of man who would lose all his value from just a scar? Is my pretty face the only value I hold? Actually, a few more scars might be helpful for you. I absolutely love this conversation and what it does, because it's Jinshi getting confirmation that Mao Mao can see who he truly is. And I'm sure that throughout all of Jinshi's life, sometimes, regardless of how he feels he is, he's worried that he is nothing more but his face and but his lineage and but his role, but he's more than that. And it's now somebody else recognizing that in him. And it's not just somebody else, it's somebody who's extremely important to him and how she can see the world.
Mm-hmm. The gentle way that Mao Mao reaches out toward where the scar is multiple times within this episode, I think it speaks so much. I think it says the comfort she actually feels and care she actually feels toward him, because you don't just reach out so many times towards someone that you are disgusted by or don't love or don't care about. You know, you wouldn't do that. And I think that it speaks on her comfort and her care. But I also think when we have her reaching toward the scar also represents something else. I feel like it also could represent for her that he isn't just this pretty face and he isn't just this prince character. He is so much more. And he, obviously the line about like he could do with a couple more scars, and even saying he's looking so manly, you know, there's something about her reaching toward this mark of imperfection with such a delicate touch to it, and almost appreciating this mark of imperfection on him, where everyone else would be so angered and so upset by this mark of imperfection.
You have to be delicate because the stitches are messy. They could just come undone at
Yeah,
any moment.
right,
No,
right.
but the idea of even benefiting from more scars, right? Like how if somebody stops looking at a person with as just a pretty face because of the scars compiling on them and starts to see their value as their objective goals and accomplishments and their ideas, I think that is hinted at as well, because Jinchi has so much to offer that is more than the shallow thing people just look at.
I feel like that's one of the main ways that I would kind of take that line, the
exactly.
idea. Because if you care about someone, don't you want everyone else to see them through your eyes and in the way that you see them? Mao Mao has come to know Jinchi in all of his forms, in all of his ways. His childish nature that had always seemed to maybe at some points younger than the age she thought that he was. When he comes out and he's able to be this princely, strong, inspiring presence, he's able to carry her out, you know, where he's able to jump in and save her. He's shown so many sides of himself: gentle, childish, princely, you know, strong, really good morals, really good values. He's shown so many great aspects and sides of himself, and probably all of them. His vulnerability that he's shown to her, and for her to kind of have a line that evokes, "I wish that people could see you for really what you are on the inside personality, and not just the beautiful face that makes people's hearts be set aflutter, you know, where they can't even pay attention to things anymore."
Yeah. I feel like Jinchi is like a padlock that has finally been unlocked when it comes to like his physical reaction in a private with Mao Mao. You know
he literally, you're right. The chains have come off.
Yeah.
There's no reserve here anymore. There's no reservations. Like, yes, Jinchi, like Master Jinchi, back in like season 1 with like, you know, touching the lip or like honey, you know, there were different moments where it was like, whoa, you are getting like really close to Mao Mao here, and you're really being really brazen, I guess, in your actions. But it almost still fit the character, but it was also kind of like childish and like playful. He has taken off all of the he's taken off the
training
restraints.
weights.
Yeah, this isn't childish and playful in that same way. This isn't an act. This is like the reservations are gone. We're showing our vulnerability and our care for this person, and we're showing what we want.
Remember when we were in Ireland and went to Foda Island, that wildlife park, and we got to see like a cheetah right next to us on the other side of that like fence, and they let down this huge like piece of meat,
Yeah.
and we saw a cheetah run like 50 miles an hour and jumped at it. That's how I feel watching Jinchi and Mao Mao in a room together. Yep. So within that same sequence though, the idea of the children waking up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it being referenced as medicine and not poison. I loved that we were able to rehear that and re-see that line, and getting Jinchi's reaction is feeling tricked by a fox.
Both of them realizing within this scene as at the same time as the other, that when the kids are waking up, they feel like they understand the true extent of what Lao Lin's last kind of words or asks of them really were.
Yeah.
And they both jump into action here. And what Jinchi honestly went further than I even expected him to go. Obviously we can talk about like kind of post Stronghold, like once we've gone back to the Rear Palace, what he does for these kids. But I would say initially he does much more than I expected, which was to let Suri come.
Yeah, so like the first reaction to Mao Mao being around the corpses was so fair, right? Didn't your master forbid you from being around corpses? But in terms of Suri, like I love that rightly so organically would be Mao Mao's first thought, but Jinchi being like, yup, got it, on it, we're gonna get warm drinks, warm blankets, and Suri, and seeing Suri's reaction, all life was taken out of her eyes. She just watched her sister die in her mind, and hearing that the kids were alive and feeling like what that would have meant, and also the joy in her, the life returning to her eyes and jumping back into action meant so much to me to see.
Is that even a bit of like your purpose coming back, your life returning to you when you hear that there are people that you care about that are still alive and in need of your help. The fact that she so readily jumps into action, because she also knows what it means. If they're just waking up, that doesn't mean their trials are over. These kids need to be taken care of. They're very in a delicate state at the moment. They need to be nursed and taken care of. They're probably going to deal with possibly lifelong issues from this medicine that they took, and she would know, and she even says she wishes it had been perfected beforehand. But I can't help but think of like Kyoyu. You know, she sees her sister die, but this is like a little brother character to her, and I don't know if she knows that he's in there, and I don't even think she necessarily is thinking in her head that specific kid is in there, but just the thought that there are people alive, innocent people alive, that she had consistently tried to protect. I am so glad. I think it has to do with her blood and her lineage. That is one of the main reasons why Jinshi maybe feels so comfortable with giving her this kind of treatment or special treatment in a way, like letting her run in there. If she was just a random Shi clan member that knew some nursing and knew some, was a capable doctor or apothecary, I don't know how quickly and readily in his position he would have felt like he was allowed to just let this slide and let her go in there with Mao Mao.
I think a lot of it also comes down to seeing who Suri really was last episode as a person. Like, thinking of Suri as this bold mastermind and such an idea of a character, an idea of a person, to then see who she really was and how she was really treated, and seeing what Suri's reaction was immediately after hearing that the kids have come back to life. I think Jinshi's reaction to seeing that confirmed the type of person that Suri really is, and that Mao Mao would trust her. Like, think about one of the first things that Jinshi brings up in this episode upon talking to Mao Mao is wondering if Mao Mao and Shisui or Laolin were friends.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about that scene. Obviously, we see Mao Mao shed a tear later on in the episode.
Don't get me started.
Okay, I won't get you started on that. So with the scene that we were just referencing about asking if Mao Mao kind of thought that they were friends, if Laolin and her were friends, were they? Mao Mao surprised me here. I didn't think that she didn't think they were friends. I thought that she'd have a more complicated response because she has difficulty kind of expressing exactly how she feels or how other people might feel, and oftentimes minimizes impacts a little bit when it comes to her own personal feelings toward other people. I expected her to be like, were we friends? Much more of a question to herself that she would try to understand. But I feel like that's Mao Mao 6-7 episodes ago. I feel like the Mao Mao here comes up with, sure, I would call it friends. And she then takes it to wondering what Laolin would say and Laolin would think. And to get a Mao Mao that is like, this is how I feel, and yes, she still can't fully understand how someone else feels, but that she feels pretty confident that on her end she would say that we were friends, that she was friends with Laolin. I was really happily surprised by that.
I love that it's, I don't know how Shisui felt. And I love that Mao Mao continues to reference Laolin as Shisui, and I think that giving power to her name and to her individuality and her person is consistent. I wasn't surprised. I found it like really generous almost from Mao Mao, because you're giving so much space for the person that is Shisui in her life, and understanding of what she went through, to give her the grace of, I don't know how she felt, because she's so many different faces, she's so many different characters, she has so much personality and life to work through that you wouldn't want to assume that of somebody in her position.
Mm-hmm. We do give her, Mao Mao does give her a lot of kind of special, she holds a special place to Mao Mao, I think, and I think we see that definitely highlighted in this episode. The last couple episodes, their kind of goodbyes to each other. Like you said, it feels more right to call her Shisui, especially because that's what, at the end of the day, Mao Mao's like, no, I'm going to call you Shisui, and we get that reaction from Laolin / Shisui about being called Shisui.
Yeah.
So it does feel very good to call her that. Obviously, we have to call her Tamamo now.
Yeah.
But she'll always be Shisui to us and to Mao Mao.
Kyo was the one who woke up last,
Mhm.
and he seems to have a bit of amnesia, and we're going by Cho now.
Yes, because we remembered like the sound of our name or a similar sound to our name, and therefore we had to be creative with how to change the name.
Yeah.
But are we gonna then talk about what the post time skip, the aftermath for the kids are?
Oh yeah. Other than Chio having, you know, a slightly different name because of his memory and remembering his old name a little bit, the other kids were adopted by a former high-ranking concubine, Aoduo. And then we get to see Suri as well. And the kids look rightfully so scared, right? Like, because they don't know what their life is going to be like going forward. They don't know if their life is going to be forfeit going forward. I'm sure that they're scared. But
and they weren't really in a very cuddly and warm and safe environment previously.
Yeah.
They're probably used to pretty rough treatment if they act out. And obviously have seen things probably with their parents that they should not have had to see.
But
They've gone through a lot.
I absolutely adore that Jinshi and Goshin were here as well, to hand them off, if you will, and seeing Aduo's reaction. Suri caused trouble all over the palace, but it seems they determined that she has extenuating circumstances. Moreover, she carries the blood of the late emperor.
Honestly, I could imagine a conversation between Jinshi and the emperor about this. I feel like the emperor definitely was a part of coming up with this plan for Suri in particular. The emperor, he's not a man that holds grudges. He's not a stupid man from what we've seen, and he's not an uncaring man. And I feel like he would see in the same way that Lauman's staying as a doctor, because they realized that he had been kicked out of the rear palace for unreasonably. In that same way, I think he views the transgressions of people previously, and he views, well, this is a fact that she's related to me, and obviously, yes, she needs to be under surveillance, but we also want her to live safely and comfortably. Who is his most trusted friend and advisor and former concubine? Aoduo.
Yeah.
It makes complete sense to me that she would be, I guess, in care of technically his sister. I really like that. And keeping her with the kids, too, feels really nice. But also, is that somewhat of like a hostage situation to some degree? If you keep her with the kids, is that more like, remember, like, would that in her mind ever spark the fear of, if I act up, the kids are here, and what if they get hurt because I mess up?
Well, it's not like a world that there's just black and white, you know? There are fallouts to war, and there are real reasons that people would need to have hostages in some situations, but within this specifically, it is just so great that it's a testament to Lao Lin's efforts, right? And I know that the kids and that Suri are going to feel very warranted in their uncomfortability and going into their new life, but I just hope there is some positivity within and joy that comes from it.
I don't feel worried about there being a bunch of negativity. I was definitely trying to offer what might be some immediate feelings on their end because of the fact that they know that these kids retain some of their memories. They're different than Chiou, you know? And Suri obviously retains her memory. They are aware of what has happened to, well, at least Suri probably is, to the rest of the Shi clan. Most of them have been executed up until this point. So you could feel in this immediate kind of transfer of this is where I'm going to live now, that you are on shaky ground and you don't know for sure the safety of the situation you're in. But also think about it coming from, you always lived like you were walking on on glass, you know? You always lived like if you make one wrong move, you're gonna get hurt and or killed.
Yeah.
And so I think that what's going to be awaiting these kids in Suri with Aoduo is going to probably be a very nice, very calm life. A very, I would say calm. I would say a very quiet and calm life.
Yeah. I have a few more things. Gyoku being the Empress, great, love it. Mao Mao working in the Pleasure District as an apothecary, I love it, makes sense. I'm wondering I want to talk about what to expect, like, going into the next season, but my real point that I want to talk about is the Xiaolin letters, right? One of my favorite characters that came out of this season is Sekiju, and I think that her coming to deliver those letters meant everything to me because, god damn it, like, Xiaolin couldn't read or write, and she came so far to be able to write these letters. And thinking about Xiaolin alone in the rear palace, thinking that her two best friends abandoned her without saying goodbye to go work somewhere else is a devastating thought. Having her writing the letters is emotional enough, but we know especially from season 1 how Mao Mao handles emotions and how Mao Mao doesn't cry anymore because of what it didn't mean. And seeing Mao Mao cry at the Xiaolin letter really, really fucked me up.
That
really
was a huge
me
moment.
up.
That was a really huge moment, and I think that I had initially tied it with Mao Mao saying that she would have called Shisui her friend, and I think that it does stay tied in the kind of same conversation when we talk about Mao Mao and who she is and who she has become in herself within understanding her own emotions and understanding herself and coming closer to actually being able to feel like she is allowed to and can form connections with other people, and that it is actually undeniable, whether previously she might have felt like she was more distant and was able to keep that distance. I think that it's undeniable to her at this point, and honestly she's probably happier for it. I think the connections that have become undeniable for her, that she has now kind of realized that and is aware of that, bring her such a source of comfort. I think she has, especially at the end with this episode, at the end of the season, I feel like there's a lot of like ease and acceptance within Mao Mao of like who she is, who she's become, the journey she's been on, the people that she's met and how they've made her feel. And I think that she's happier for it.
Yeah. I'm so happy for Xiaolin, and I'm glad that Mao Mao and Shisui's efforts put Xiaolin into a position where she was able to impress a concubine enough to be able to give her a job for her sister.
Mm-hmm.
And Xiaolin is just God. What would Xiaolin's life look like right now without Mao Mao's influence and without Shisui's influence? She's
you
one
could
of
ask that across the board too, with a lot of different characters. What would their lives be like if Mao Mao wasn't a character in this universe?
Yeah. Going into next season, do you have any expectations? Like, how do you think Mao Mao is going to stay working as an apothecary in the Pleasure District?
Okay, so I feel like if there's not already an announcement for season 3, I haven't heard anything. I don't know anything. If there's not a season 3 for this, I will probably go on a rampage. I think that I would be so incredibly distraught, offended, upset.
I think it's pointless
confused.
in saying that.
Yeah,
it doesn't even make sense. Of course, like we don't go anywhere or see anything online, but I would guarantee you that there's already an announcement for season 3.
If there's not, I would be very confused. But anyway, what would I expect? I understand why Mao Mao is back in the Pleasure District. It makes sense to me because of having to deal with all the fallout, all of the work that has been done. She technically wasn't actually Gyokyu's lady-in-waiting anymore once, Jinji had bought her out, and she technically worked for him and was on loan to Gyokyu again because of the pregnancy. And due to the fact that there's such like this haze around the fact that she was kidnapped and was with the Shi clan at the stronghold, I feel like it just makes sense to keep things kind of quiet with her, that they would have just distanced themselves, had her go stay in the Pleasure District for some time. Obviously, the timeline that we're seeing, we're not too far off of what has happened from the stronghold. Jinchi still has like stitches in his scar, and we even say to Chiyoyu, you just woke up recently, like calm down. I feel like there needs to be something that gets them involved again, gets Jinchi and Mao Mao involved again, other than him coming to visit her. And I really wonder what it would be like for another season. Is that going to be that she continues to work here and he comes to visit her up until a point of maybe proposing marriage? Like, what sort
You're
of
going
like,
so far ahead,
what's-
bro.
I'm just like trying to figure out where what are the stepstones? Like, you know, do we come back to the rear palace and then the romance continues moving forward, or do we continue moving forward with the romance with him coming to visit her here?
That's fair, I guess. I mean, the idea that Mao Mao would be given another job somewhere else would give me the idea, like, that if we're playing with that and that's the story that we're telling everyone, then there'd have to be a good amount of time or distance between her being able to return and transfer jobs back. But that would be easy to have happen in just a couple months of a time skip, a year of a time skip, or we could stay within the in the pleasure district and be able to solve some issues here. But I imagine that maybe when Jinshi's done sorting through all the materials that he has to and the, you know, fallout of the Shi clan, that he'd have more time to be able to try to reintroduce Mao Mao in a position in the rear palace, if not higher up, if not for Empress Gyokyu, and maybe more issues go on there, right? Gyokyu has precious cargo, more so than ever now, and unfortunately, in the world, there are people who are evil and want to take power in their own hands, and Gyokyu's child could be at risk for some things, and because of that, Mao Mao's a massive asset to have.
We've just announced the Crown Prince. He's just been presented. He's still young, and yes, childbirth and living past the initial days of being born is a tough job. But within the first couple years of this child's life, you're still gonna have to keep like hawk eyes on this child, you know, in order to ensure that it's able to grow up. And so I think that there's still obviously risk, especially with someone being kind of given the position of empress. Someone has the role of the new crown prince. There's still going to be people that are probably upset by that, would want to squash it before it actually comes to fruition and insert themselves in that position. Obviously, Luomen's there in the rear palace, and so that's a huge safety of like why we wouldn't necessarily need Mao Mao unless Luomen's like, oh no, we need Mao Mao for this. But also, what would the Pleasure District be missing out on if Mao Mao was to return back to the rear palace? Would we have to swap her with Luomen to kind of protect all of the characters that we've come to know and love and all of the places that are in need of care? Because having such an amazing apothecary like Luomen in the Pleasure District has done such a great service for the courtesans who live here that I almost feel that if we take both Mao Mao and him out of there, that I'm like, no, put someone in there that's like a good apothecary.
We train up Cho to be just as good of an apothecary. Luomen then reaches out to Mao Mao so they can, you know, use both of their brains in Rear Palace for some work.
I'm sorry for initially starting this conversation off with like jumping so heavily into the romance. I feel like my shackles have come off a little
You're
bit.
Jinshi, bro.
I am Jinshi in this moment. He fell asleep on her lap, but
Yeah.
she didn't move him, even though she was like, oh, my legs are gonna fall asleep. And he's like sleeping so soundly, and she just continues her work, like not bothering him. Where we have come with their dynamic and how comfortable she is with being touched and cared for by him, and how comfortable she is with caring for him, I absolutely adore it. The fact that we almost got a kiss but didn't made me want to like punch the air a little bit, but it was so fun.
I think my favorite part of it was Jinshi being ready to say something, Mao Mao being like, all right, you can tell me whatever you want, and then Jinshi realizing that he doesn't really have anything to say because that's already been said, and we are all understanding of the situation now.
Isn't that
There's
like,
no point. Like,
it's like an adrenaline rush feeling. Like you still feel like there's something you had to tell this person because there's so long that you've been waiting to tell this person something, and then it's like, wait.
I just think it makes a lot of sense for Jinshi and Mao Mao's relationship and their dynamic with each other. That's the approach that you would take to go about it.
So, season 3.
Season 3. You have anything else?
I don't think so.
All right. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Hope to see you next time.